The galaxy had never seen a war like this. For centuries, the Serenth Dominion had ruled the stars with cold perfection. Their armies were built with precision, their weapons unmatched, and their queen Varine was feared across every system. Her word was law. Her empire was eternal. That was what everyone believed until they came to Earth. The invasion was supposed to be simple. The Dominion had crushed hundreds of worlds before. They expected another easy victory, a new world to add to their empire. The First Fleet entered Earth's orbit with pride. Massive carriers blocked the sun. The Queen herself watched the live feed from her throne on the capital world of Sirayon. She saw blue oceans, green lands, and a species still using primitive technology compared to her kind. Her generals promised her a quick triumph. The humans will fall in 3 days, they said with confidence. Their defenses are weak. Their armies are divided. Their spirit will break the moment our troops land. Varine accepted their words without doubt. She had seen countless worlds fall. No one ever resisted the Dominion for long. But this time something felt different. She couldn't name it, yet there was a strange energy behind this small planet. She ignored it and gave the command to begin. The first ships entered the atmosphere and released waves of landing craft. Cities across the world turned into war zones. The skies glowed with the fire of plasma cannons. Alien soldiers in silver armor marched through burning streets, their tall frames moving with mechanical grace. The humans fought back with everything they had: tanks, drones, jets, and even improvised weapons. For a moment, it seemed like every prediction was correct. The Dominion forces captured territory fast. Major cities fell one after another. Communication lines were destroyed. The human governments went silent. It looked like the end. Then something unexpected happened. The Dominion's forward command base in Europe went offline. A fleet stationed above the Atlantic reported that an unknown human force had destroyed their supply ships. Sensors picked up explosions across several continents. Dominion officers began arguing over what was happening. The Queen's generals sent updates full of confusion. A single name appeared again and again in the intercepted human communications: Ryan. At first, no one in the Dominion command paid attention. They assumed he was a local resistance leader, but soon his name appeared in every report. Every time his unit appeared, alien forces vanished. Drones went silent. Armored columns disappeared into traps. Airstrikes failed. Whole divisions were forced to retreat. One alien captain reported that Ryan's soldiers fought like machines. "They do not stop," the captain said before the transmission cut off. "They fight as if they do not fear death. They follow him without question." Another report claimed Ryan was using captured alien equipment to build something new. He had taken their weapons, reversed them, and turned them against their own kind. When Queen Varine heard these stories, she laughed at first. "No human could outthink my armies," she said. "He is just another desperate leader." But as the days passed, more Dominion ships vanished from radar. More generals stopped answering her calls. The laughter faded. On the 10th day, a new message arrived. It was a video feed from one of her generals on the front line. His face was pale, his armor cracked. Behind him, the ground burned. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice shaking, "it's him. He is not like the others. We attacked his position with 3 full battalions. He did not retreat. He destroyed everything." The general turned the camera. In the distance, smoke rose from the battlefield. A figure stood among the wreckage, carrying a damaged rifle and a metal flag marked with the Earth's emblem. He was covered in dust, armor dented but still standing. The feed ended with the general's final words. "He's coming!" The message spread through the Dominion fleet like fire. Soldiers whispered his name in fear. Ryan became a legend overnight. They said he could appear anywhere, anytime. They said his voice alone could rally thousands. Some even claimed he controlled the planet itself, that the storms and lightning followed his command. Queen Varine watched from her palace, staring at the holographic maps. She refused to believe superstition, yet the data was clear. Every encounter with Ryan ended in loss. Every plan to trap him failed. On Earth, Ryan's resistance grew stronger. The people had something new, hope. He was not a perfect man, but he had something the aliens could not understand: the will to fight even when all seemed lost. He moved from one front to another, giving orders, repairing defenses, and lifting spirits wherever he went. His presence turned fear into courage. One evening, as the human communication network came back online, A broadcast went across the entire planet. It was Ryan speaking from an underground base. His voice was calm, steady. "This is not the end," he said. "They think they can rule us. They think fear will break us. But we are humans. We don't kneel. We rebuild. We rise." Those words reached even the occupied zones. Civilians began resisting. Dominion outposts faced sabotage and ambushes. The war that was supposed to end in days turned into months of chaos. Queen Varine ordered her intelligence council to gather information on this man. They learned he was once a soldier before the invasion, trained in engineering and tactics. He had no special rank, no great wealth, nothing that stood out, except for a history of never abandoning anyone under his command. The Queen found herself studying his image in silence. The report said he had refused every offer of surrender, even when surrounded. She could not understand why someone so fragile would keep fighting against an empire that spanned galaxies. One of her advisors spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should offer them a treaty. The cost of this war is rising." Varine's eyes flashed with anger. "A treaty with primitives? Never." She rose from her throne and turned toward the stars visible through the great crystal wall of her chamber. "If this Ryan wishes to challenge me, then I will crush him myself." She sent elite assassins to Earth. They were invisible hunters trained to move through any terrain. But one by one they failed. None returned. The only signal they sent before disappearing was the same as the general's final message: "He's coming." The Queen began to dream of him, though she had never met him. She saw burning skies, broken machines, and the face of a man who refused to die. Every night she woke in silence, her hands trembling slightly. She told no one. Back on Earth, Ryan continued to push forward. His army was small, but every victory brought more people to his side. He worked without rest, rebuilding captured alien technology, studying their weapons, learning how to use them. His engineers followed his orders to connect old satellites into a global defense grid. Step by step, Earth began to fight back. The turning point came when Ryan led an attack on a Dominion power core near the equator. It was heavily guarded, surrounded by energy barriers. Alien drones filled the sky. But Ryan's team broke through. He moved with precision, his commands clear and calm. "No retreat," he said over the radio. "We hold until it's done." The power core exploded. Half the Dominion fleet lost connection instantly. Across the galaxy, alarms echoed through their networks. The Queen's personal ship shook from the energy backlash. When she demanded an explanation, her technician stammered. "It's a counter-signal, Your Majesty. They used our own relay frequencies against us." Her anger turned to disbelief. "A human did this?" The technician nodded slowly. "Yes, the one they call Rian." The Queen stood silent for a long time. Her empire had never faced such humiliation. She had underestimated the humans. No other world had ever forced her to feel fear, but this one did. She turned to her generals. "Prepare everything," she said coldly. "If Earth wants a war, we will give them one. I will see this Rian crushed with my own eyes." Across the stars, the largest invasion fleet in history began to gather. And somewhere beneath the ashes of his fallen world, the human named Ryan looked up at the sky and whispered a promise to himself. "They will come again. And when they do, we'll be ready." The war for Earth had reached a new stage. The Serenth Dominion had gathered an enormous fleet above the planet, and their queen, Varine, had taken direct control. To her, this was no longer just another conquest. It had become a matter of pride. She wanted to erase the human who had humiliated her armies. From her throne aboard the flagship Vraxian, she watched thousands of ships align in perfect formation. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with determination. "No more delays," she said. "This planet will fall and their leader will be nothing but a memory." The command went through the fleet. Orbital bombardments began again, shaking the surface. Yet even as fire rained from the skies, the human resistance refused to break. Underground bunkers across the continent stayed active. Hidden command centers relayed signals through improvised satellites. And at the center of it all was Ryan. He stood before a table covered with holographic maps. His uniform was torn, his armor scratched, but his focus was sharp. "We cannot fight them ship to ship," he said. "But we can make them bleed every time they land." The men and women around him nodded. They trusted him completely. His calm voice carried strength. Every word gave them purpose. He had become more than a commander. He had become a symbol. As the bombardment continued, Rion gave new orders. Activate the decoy network. Feed them false coordinates. We make them chase ghosts. The Dominion fleet deployed thousands of ground troops expecting to crush the remaining resistance. But what they found were empty ruins and traps. Mines hidden beneath rubble. Explosive drones disguised as wreckage. When alien squads entered the abandoned cities, explosions followed. Every time the Dominion changed tactics, Ryan was already ahead. He moved faster than their scanners could track. He used captured alien tech to build new weapons. He turned wrecked ships into mobile artillery and communication hubs. Queen Varine's generals grew nervous. They reported losses on multiple fronts. He anticipates every strike, one officer said. It is as if he sees the future. The Queen's voice remained steady, but her hands tightened around the rail of her command chair. Then stop hiding behind excuses and find him, she said coldly. She ordered her intelligence corps to capture Rion alive. She wanted to look into the eyes of the man who challenged her empire, but finding him was harder than expected. He moved constantly, never staying in one place for long. His network of loyal fighters protected him fiercely. Even when alien troops cornered his units, somehow they escaped at the last moment. Rumors spread among Dominion soldiers. Some said he was not human at all. Others said he could hack their ships with his mind. Fear began to grow within the invaders. One night, inside the Dominion base orbiting Earth, a group of alien officers whispered in the dark. "We fight an army that does not surrender," one said quietly. "They fight as if every battle is personal. We have fought many worlds, but never an enemy like this," another officer replied. "The Queen believes he is just a man, but I think he is something else." Their whispers stopped when the door opened. The Queen's envoy entered. "Your loyalty is to Her Majesty alone," he said firmly. Fear has no place in her army. But fear had already taken root. On the surface, Ryan stood with his scouts near a broken satellite dish on a mountain ridge. The wind was cold, carrying the distant hum of alien engines. He looked out toward the horizon where the glow of alien ships painted the sky. One of his soldiers asked, "Commander, do you think we can win this?" Ryan answered without hesitation. "We don't need to win today. We just need to keep them from winning." He pointed toward the dish. "This will link our communication to the old orbital systems. Once connected, we can override their targeting." They worked through the night. Sparks flew as human engineers rebuilt the alien parts by hand. Ryan worked beside them, tightening bolts, lifting equipment, and checking connections. He never gave orders from a distance. He fought and worked like every other soldier. When dawn came, the dish came online. Data flowed across screens. "We have access," one technician said in disbelief. "We can read their signals," Ryan smiled faintly. "Then let's give them something to read." Within hours, the Dominion fleet detected false transmissions showing human strongholds in the wrong places. They sent units to strike those coordinates. What they found were traps, entire regions mined with magnetic explosives and pulse grenades. The Queen watched from her throne, her patience thinning. "Enough games," she said. "Bring me this human." Her best hunter, Commander Threx, accepted the mission. He was known across the Empire for tracking enemies through impossible terrain. He took his squad of stealth operatives and landed on Earth. For days, they followed faint traces of human movement. Heat signatures, energy readings, footsteps. But every lead turned into an ambush. Threx lost half his team before realizing the truth. "He knows we are here," he whispered. "He is leading us." When night fell, Threx finally saw him. A lone figure standing in the distance near a burning outpost. Ryan raised his weapon but did not fire. His voice echoed through the smoke. "You came looking for me. Now you found me." The Dominion commander fired first. The ground exploded, sending dust into the air. But when it cleared, Ryan was gone. His voice came again from the other side. "You invaded our home. You thought it would be easy. Tell your queen. She was wrong." Moments later, the entire valley erupted in controlled detonations. The alien squad vanished in fire. Only Threx's final transmission reached orbit. It was just 3 words. "He's still alive." Queen Varine watched the playback in silence. The footage showed a human soldier walking away from the flames. His armor was damaged, his face streaked with ash, but his stride was steady. The Queen leaned forward, her expression unreadable. For the first time, she felt something unfamiliar, a chill that ran down her spine. Weeks passed. The Dominion tried new strategies. They bombarded from orbit, poisoned rivers, and destroyed power grids. Yet no matter how much damage they caused, the humans rebuilt again and again. Ryan coordinated the rebuilding efforts. He repaired broken systems, shared supplies, and trained new volunteers. He never rested. When people lost hope, he was there, standing among them, lifting their spirits. He spoke little, but his presence was enough. The people began calling him the Unyielding One. The name spread across every bunker and camp. Queen Vereen began studying human behavior personally. She spent hours reviewing captured broadcasts, trying to understand what drove them. "How do they keep fighting?" she asked her advisor. The advisor answered carefully. "They are not like us, Majesty. Their strength is not in their weapons. It is in their belief that they must protect their own." The Queen frowned. Belief does not win wars, but deep inside she wondered if she was wrong. On Earth, Ryan's scouts brought news. A massive Dominion base was being built in the deserts to coordinate the next planetary strike. Ryan examined the satellite images and made his decision. "We take it down," he said. His officers stared at him in shock. "That base is surrounded by thousands of soldiers." "It is suicide," Ryan shook his head. "Not if we strike before they expect it. We don't fight their strength. We use their pride." He gathered his best teams and moved at night. The humans used underground tunnels and cloaked vehicles stolen from the Dominion. They reached the outer edge of the enemy base undetected. Ryan gave a quiet order. "Remember, this isn't about destroying them. It's about showing them they can be beaten." They planted explosives along the power conduits and data relays. When dawn broke, the entire complex exploded in sequence. The sky lit up with fire. Dominion forces panicked as their systems went dark. The Queen's voice thundered through her command ship when she saw the explosion from orbit. "How do they keep finding us?" No one had an answer. Later that day, a human transmission broke through the Dominion frequencies. Rian's voice filled their channels. "You came to rule us. You called us weak. But you forgot one thing. We never stop." The Dominion fleet scrambled to jam the signal, but it was too late. Every ship, every soldier, every officer heard his words. That night, silence filled the alien throne room. The Queen sat motionless, her mind replaying his voice. Her heart beat faster. She would not admit it, but that human had shaken her confidence. Still, she refused to retreat. "If he is their symbol," she said quietly, "then I will destroy the symbol myself." Her ship began descending toward Earth. Queen Vereen's fleet filled the black of space like a storm that could swallow worlds. Thousands of Dominion warships surrounded Earth. The blue planet shone below, quiet and defiant. Every cannon was armed, every fighter waiting for her command. From the observation deck of her flagship Vraxion, the Queen looked down at the world that refused to kneel. "This is no longer a campaign," she said softly. "This is a lesson." Her generals stood behind her, silent. No one dared question her decision. The losses had been too great, the humiliation too deep. Ryan's victories had turned her empire into whispers and fear. "Begin the purge," she ordered. Massive beams of plasma streaked toward the surface. Cities vanished in flashes of light. The oceans boiled. The Queen expected screams and surrender, but instead, new defense signals rose from the planet. Unknown transmissions cut through Dominion frequencies. The communications officer turned to her, confused. "Your Majesty, something is jamming our targeting system." "What kind of jamming?" she demanded. "Not jamming, Majesty. Reflection. They are sending our own data back at us." The Queen frowned. "That is impossible. No human technology can mirror Dominion targeting networks." But it was already happening. The Dominion fleet sensors filled with false readings. Ships began firing at empty coordinates. Some even locked onto their own allies. Far below, inside a hidden mountain command center, Ryan watched the results with calm focus. Holographic screens glowed before him, showing enemy formations in chaos. Engineers around him cheered as alien ships collided and exploded. "We did it," one of them said. "The orbital shield grid is working," Ryan nodded. "Keep the system balanced. If the signal breaks, they will find us." He looked at the image of the planet's orbit. Thousands of small satellites, once part of Earth's communication network, were now linked together through captured Dominion technology. Ryan and his team had turned them into a global shield that redirected plasma energy. Every shot from the aliens was being reflected back into space. Outside, beams of light cut across the sky as alien ships exploded from their own fire. The people on Earth watched in disbelief. For the first time since the invasion began, they saw the enemy burn. Queen Vereen gripped the rail of her command platform. "How could this happen?" she whispered. "How could they do this without our knowledge?" Her science officer answered nervously. "They used your own relay algorithms, Majesty." "They learned from us," the Queen's voice dropped. "A human-learned Dominion code?" "Yes, Majesty. The one they call Ryan." Her heart pounded with a mix of rage and something she could not name. For the first time in centuries, she felt the edge of fear. On Earth, the battle spread across continents. Ryan moved from command center to command center, giving quick orders. "Protect the shield relays. The Queen will send her ground troops next," and she did. The moment her orbital attack failed, Queen Vereen ordered an all-out ground invasion. Giant troop carriers descended through the atmosphere. Each one carried thousands of armored soldiers, heavy tanks, and walker units. Ryan stood with his soldiers as the first wave landed in the desert plains. Dust clouds rose as metal feet struck the ground. The sound echoed for miles. His voice came through the comms. "Hold your fire until they form lines." The aliens advanced in perfect formation. Their banners gleamed in the sun. Ryan's eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. Then he raised his hand. Now, hidden artillery fired from behind the hills. Drones shot upward from underground silos. Explosions tore through the alien ranks. Plasma bolts flashed across the battlefield. Human forces emerged from the dunes, their vehicles moving like ghosts through the smoke. The Dominion commander tried to call for support, but their comms were scrambled. "They are inside our network," one soldier shouted. Within minutes, half of the landing forces were destroyed. The survivors retreated back to their transports only to be met with missile fire. Queen Vereen watched the feed in disbelief. "This cannot be real. My soldiers are trained for perfection. How do they fail against such chaos?" Her general bowed his head. "Majesty, their commander fights with instinct, not calculation. He adapts faster than our systems can process." The Queen clenched her fists. "Then I will face him myself." She left the command deck, ignoring the protests of her guards. She entered her personal cruiser, activating descent protocols. Her ship broke through the clouds, flames trailing behind it. Ryan stood near the front line when the new signature appeared on the radar. His officer looked up. "Sir, one ship descending, unidentified signature. It's not part of their normal fleet." Ryan studied the readings. "That is her." "The Queen?" He nodded slowly. "She has come to finish this herself." The alien ship landed hard near the ruins of an old city. Dust rose high into the air. From the wreckage, the Queen emerged, surrounded by her royal guards. Her armor was black with silver patterns, her crown shaped like twin blades. Her presence alone made the air feel heavier. Ryan approached with his team, weapons ready. But when the Queen stepped forward, he raised his hand for his soldiers to hold. He wanted to see her face to face. For a long moment, they stared at each other across the battlefield. The human leader and the alien ruler, two wills unbroken by war. "You are Ryan," she said, her voice cold but steady. "I am," he replied. "You have caused endless loss to my people," she continued. "Do you understand the power you challenge?" Ryan looked at the burning sky above them. "I understand enough. You came here thinking you could take what you wanted, but this planet fights back." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "You think you can stop me?" Ryan did not answer with words. He pointed upward. Above them, the reflection grid activated again. The light from the Dominion ships bent across the sky, forming a barrier of blue energy. When the Queen looked up, she realized her fleet was firing blindly into the shield. Beams of plasma curved and struck their own ships. Her guards shouted warnings. The Queen's ship shook from the shockwaves. Ryan spoke quietly. "It's over. Tell them to leave." But the Queen's pride would not allow surrender. "I will never retreat before humans." She raised her weapon and fired. The energy bolt hit the ground beside Ryan, throwing dust into the air. He stayed standing, unshaken. "You destroy everything you touch," he said calmly. "But you still fear what you cannot control." The Queen hesitated for a moment, then turned away as her guards pulled her back to the ship. They launched skyward just as another reflection burst consumed the orbit. Half of the Dominion fleet fell within minutes. Back aboard her flagship, alarms filled the bridge. Systems failed one after another. Queen Vereen stood in silence, watching the chaos she had created. Her generals begged for orders. "Retreat, Majesty," one said. "The fleet cannot survive another reflection strike." The Queen's eyes burned with fury. No, I will not retreat. I will burn their planet if I must. But the decision was already made for her. The surviving ships broke formation and fled into hyperspace. The invasion collapsed. On Earth, cheers erupted across every city and bunker. Ryan walked among his people as they emerged from underground shelters. Soldiers hugged each other. Engineers cried with relief, and civilians raised banners made from scraps of old flags. The war was not truly over, but the impossible had happened. Humanity had defeated the Dominion's greatest assault. Ryan looked to the night sky where debris from alien ships glimmered like new stars. He did not smile. His voice was quiet. They will come again, he said. Next time we must be stronger. In the throne chamber aboard her damaged flagship, Queen Vereen sat alone. The walls around her were scorched from power surges. She replayed the battle feed over and over. The image of Ryan standing unshaken burned into her mind. Her advisor entered cautiously. Majesty, the Council demands an explanation. The fleets are in disarray. She did not answer immediately. Her gaze stayed fixed on the screen showing Earth. How can such a small world challenge an empire? She whispered. The advisor bowed. Perhaps it is not the world, Majesty. Perhaps it is the man. The Queen dismissed him with a gesture and turned off the lights. The room fell silent except for the hum of the engines. She sat in the darkness, her thoughts filled with the human's calm eyes. In her heart, something began to change. It was not just anger now. It was something deeper, an awareness that her empire had met an enemy it could not truly conquer. Ryan stood at the command outpost one last time that night. He listened to the static of the radio as messages of victory came in. His second-in-command approached. Commander, what now? Ryan watched the stars above where the last alien lights disappeared into the void. Now we rebuild, he said. But never forget. They will remember this day, and so will we. As dawn rose over the battered Earth, the human flag waved again across the ruins. The world that was supposed to fall had endured. And far across the galaxy in the halls of the Dominion, the name of one human echoed through every corridor. Ryan, the warrior they could not defeat. The war in orbit was finally over, but the sky above Earth still burned with falling wreckage. Broken ships crossed through the clouds like dying meteors, scattering light across the oceans and mountains. Each fire in the sky marked the end of another Dominion vessel that had once seemed invincible. Queen Vereen's flagship had taken a direct hit from one of the reflected plasma bursts. Systems collapsed one after another. Alarms filled the corridors as the ship began to fall toward the planet it had tried to destroy. Her guards begged her to escape in a pod, but she refused. I will not run from this, she said. The ship struck the surface far from any city, crashing into an empty valley of red stone and metal dust. The explosion sent waves of debris for miles, but the main hull stayed mostly intact. When silence finally returned, only the smoke remained. Vereen opened her eyes inside the broken command chamber. Sparks flew from shattered panels, and the air smelled of burning fuel. Pain shot through her side, but she pushed herself up. Around her lay the bodies of her royal guard, still in their armor. She was alone. Her crown had fallen and lay bent on the floor. She reached for it, but stopped halfway. For the first time in her long rule, she felt powerless. Her empire's voice had gone silent. Her fleet scattered across the stars. She staggered through the ruins, leaning against the wall until she reached an opening that led outside. The valley stretched before her, endless and quiet. The wind howled through the wreckage. She stared at the sky that was no longer hers. Ryan was already on the move when his radar picked up the crash. His scouts had detected the descent path and confirmed it matched the signature of the Queen's ship. He gathered a small team and boarded a transport craft. As they flew over the smoking valley, the pilot turned and said, Commander, this is her flagship. You want us to strike? Ryan shook his head. No, we land. I want eyes on the ground. The ship descended slowly, kicking up dust as it touched down. Ryan stepped out first, his boots sinking into ash. His armor was scratched and marked from countless battles, but his movements were steady. He walked toward the twisted hull of the Dominion vessel. The silence was heavy. The air shimmered with heat from still burning metal. His soldiers followed behind, scanning for life signs. Anything? He asked. One of them checked the scanner. Weak signal inside the forward section. Could be her. Ryan adjusted his weapon. Stay back. I'll go first. He climbed over the fallen panels until he reached what remained of the command deck. There in the middle of the wreckage stood Queen Vereen. Her once shining armor was cracked, and her hair, usually set with precision, hung loose across her shoulders. She turned slowly when she heard footsteps. For a moment, neither spoke. The wind carried the sound of distant thunder, the echo of their war still fading across the world. "You came to finish it," she said quietly. Ryan stopped a few steps away. "No, I came to make sure it is finished." She looked at him carefully, taking in his human face. He was nothing like she imagined. There was no arrogance, no cruelty, only calm determination. "You could end me right now," she said. "It would make your people cheer." Ryan shook his head. "Killing you will not rebuild what was lost. It will not bring back our cities or our people." The Queen frowned. "Then why spare me? After everything I did?" "Because we are not like you," he replied. "You fight to rule. We fight to live." Her gaze drifted to the ground. She remembered how her advisors had warned her not to underestimate humans, yet she ignored them. Now she stood before the man who had defeated her empire with resolve instead of technology. Outside, Ryan's soldiers waited by the transport. They could see the faint outlines of their commander and the Queen through the smoke, but stayed where they were. No one dared interrupt. Vareen stepped closer, though her steps were slow from pain. "When I first heard your name, I thought you were a myth," she said. "I thought no human could challenge the Dominion." "You were wrong," Ryan said calmly. She gave a faint, bitter smile. "Yes, I was." For a moment there was silence again. The sound of crackling metal filled the air. "Your people will rebuild," she said, "and mine will come again." "You know that?" "I do," he said. "But next time we'll be ready." Vareen's expression softened slightly. "You have something we do not. Every Dominion world fights out of obedience. Your world fights out of choice. That is what makes you dangerous." Ryan looked at her with a steady gaze. "You could learn from that." She tilted her head. "Do you think I still have a choice? My empire will call me a failure. They will demand vengeance. If I return, I will lose everything." "Then don't return," he said simply. The Queen looked surprised. "What would you have me do? Live among humans who see me as a monster?" Ryan walked toward the open valley, the rising sun casting long shadows behind him. "Live as someone who finally stopped the war. Sometimes peace begins with one decision." She watched him walk away, unsure how to answer. His words echoed inside her mind. Hours later, human rescue teams arrived to secure the crash site. The Queen sat on a rock near the wreck, staring at the sky. She was exhausted. When Ryan approached again, she asked quietly, "What will you do with me?" He looked down at her. "I will not harm you. You will be kept alive until the world decides what happens next. But I hope you see this for what it is, not punishment, but a chance to understand." Her eyes met his. "You are not what I expected of a human commander. And you are not what I expected of a conqueror," he replied. She gave a small, humorless laugh. "Perhaps we were both wrong." The moment felt strange to her. For the first time, she spoke without giving orders or demanding obedience. She spoke as someone lost days past. The Queen was held in a guarded facility near the ruins of her crash. The humans treated her wounds and gave her food. She remained silent most of the time, thinking about the man she had fought for so long. Through the windows, she could see the planet rebuilding. Civilians cleared debris, engineers repaired roads, and children ran through the streets again. The world she had tried to conquer was alive and determined. When Ryan visited her one evening, she stood by the window watching the sunset. "Your people recover fast," she said. He nodded. "We don't stop. Even when we lose, we move forward." "Perhaps that is why we lost," she whispered. "We forgot how to begin again." Ryan crossed his arms. "You can still change that. The galaxy is watching. If your empire sees you alive, they might listen. You could end this war before it starts again." She turned to him. "You think they would listen to a defeated queen?" "If they don't," he said, "they'll listen to the consequences." She studied his face for a moment. "You are not driven by hate. That surprises me." "Because hate builds nothing," he answered. "You came here believing fear was strength. But fear only burns everything it touches." Her eyes lowered. "Then what is strength?" He looked out the window at the workers below. "It's when you keep building even after the world falls apart." The Queen was silent, but inside she felt something shift. The voice of her empire, the one that had always told her she was perfect, untouchable, divine, grew faint. In its place was the quiet, steady voice of a human who had stood against her entire fleet. That night, as Ryan left her cell, one of his officers asked, "Why keep her alive, sir?" "The people demand justice," Ryan looked up at the stars. "Justice is not always revenge. If we kill her, she becomes a memory. If she lives, she becomes a lesson." He walked away into the night, leaving the officer speechless. Inside the facility, Queen Vereen sat alone, staring at the stars through the glass. The constellations of this strange world were unfamiliar to her, yet beautiful. For the first time, she wondered what it meant to protect instead of control. She whispered softly to herself, perhaps the humans were never the ones to fear. At dawn, a transmission reached Earth's command center. The remaining Dominion fleets had gone silent. No new attacks came. Across the galaxy, rumors spread that the Queen of the Serenth Dominion had fallen and had been spared by the human leader she once sought to destroy. Some called it weakness. Others called it the beginning of something new. Ryan stood at the same mountain ridge where he had once planned the defense of Earth. He looked at the sunrise and felt the weight of the future pressing on his shoulders. He knew peace might not last forever, but he also knew humanity had proved its strength, not through destruction, but through endurance. And somewhere in a quiet room, far from the battlefield, Queen Vereen sat watching the same sunrise. For the first time, she did not think about empires or victories. She thought about the words of a human who had shown her that courage was not domination, but defiance in the face of fear. Months passed since the Great War ended. Earth slowly healed, though the scars of battle still marked every city and plain. Craters filled with rainwater growing into small lakes. Fields that once burned began to bloom again. Humanity had survived, but survival was only the beginning. Ryan walked through the rebuilt streets of New Geneva, a city that had once been nothing but rubble. Children played near repaired fountains, and banners of the new Planetary Alliance flew above the council building. Engineers worked day and night to reconnect the power grids and communication towers. People saluted Ryan when he passed, though he never asked for it. To them, he was not just a soldier anymore. He was the man who had made the impossible possible, the one who turned a hopeless war into victory. But even as peace grew on Earth, Ryan's thoughts remained on the stars. He knew the Dominion would not forget. Empires did not accept defeat easily. Somewhere out there, among distant systems, the remnants of their fleets were regrouping. He had to be ready. Inside the command chamber, his officers updated him on global progress. "Most of our defenses are back online," one said. "Satellite shields are stable. Civilian reconstruction is ahead of schedule." Rion nodded. "Good. Keep everything connected. The next battle might not be on the ground." Another officer looked uneasy. "Sir, there is a new signal coming from deep space." "It carries the Dominion's encryption, but the message is not hostile." Ryan turned his head slightly. "Put it through." The holographic screen flickered, revealing the face of Queen Vereen. She looked different, tired but calm. Behind her was not a throne room, but a simple chamber with pale light. "Ryan," she said softly. He remained silent for a moment, watching her expression. "You should not have used that channel," he finally said. "If your people find out, they will call it betrayal." "They already have," she replied. "I am no longer their queen. I stepped down." Her words surprised him, though he did not show it. "Why?" "Because I was wrong," she said. "I built an empire on fear. You showed me that courage cannot be ruled." Ryan crossed his arms. "And what do you want now?" "I want to stop the next war before it begins," she said. "The Council of the Dominion has declared Earth a threat. They believe your planet's victory will inspire others to rebel." I tried to speak against it. They did not listen. He studied her face carefully. "Then they will come again." "Yes," she said quietly. "They are gathering fleets in secret." "You have months, maybe less." Ryan's eyes hardened. "Then we will be ready." The Queen hesitated. "If I can slow them, I will." "But they no longer trust me," he nodded. "You already did enough by warning us." For a moment, silence filled the channel. Then the Queen spoke again. "Do you still believe peace is possible?" Ryan looked out the window where the sun was rising over the new city. "Yes," he said. "But peace must be defended." The screen faded and her image disappeared. Far across the galaxy, in the shining halls of the Dominion capital, the council gathered. The chamber was filled with alien nobles, generals, and ministers. They shouted over one another, their voices filled with anger. "Earth must be destroyed," one said. "They humiliated our fleets. They killed our soldiers," another shouted. They insulted the Dominion's honor. At the end of the hall, Queen Vereen stood silent. She no longer wore her crown. Her armor had been replaced with a simple gray cloak. When she finally spoke, her voice carried through the chamber. Enough. The noise stopped. Every eye turned toward her. You all speak of honor, she said. Yet none of you stood on that battlefield. You did not see what I saw. The High Minister frowned. We know what you saw, defeat. Vereen raised her head. No, I saw strength. Not of weapons, but of will. You cannot erase humanity. You can only fear them. Her words sent a wave of murmurs through the council. Another general shouted, You speak like one of them. Perhaps I learned from them, she answered calmly. Perhaps we all should. The chamber erupted in outrage, but beneath the anger was uncertainty. For centuries, the Dominion had crushed every enemy with ease. Now their greatest ruler spoke of humility. One younger noble stood and asked, Why do you fear this human so much, Majesty? Vereen's eyes darkened. Because I met him. And I know what he stands for. What is he? The noble demanded. She looked down, her voice soft. He is everything we forgot to be. News of the Queen's words spread across the Dominion worlds. Some called her a traitor. Others called her a visionary. Civil unrest began on several planets. Colonies started questioning the purpose of endless conquest. Meanwhile, Ryan prepared Earth for the future. He organized the rebuilding of a unified planetary defense. Nations that once competed now worked together. Scientists from every continent studied, captured Dominion technology. The first human-built starships were under construction, stronger and faster than anything before. Ryan visited the training facilities often, walking among the new recruits. They saluted him, but he always told them the same thing. You are not fighting to destroy. You are fighting to protect. He knew the galaxy was watching. Humanity had gone from a forgotten world to a symbol of resistance. Other civilizations hidden under Dominion rule began sending secret messages to Earth, asking for help or guidance. Ryan did not promise them weapons. He promised them hope. In the Dominion capital, the Council finally made their decision. They stripped Vereen of her title and exiled her to a remote moon. Before she left, one of her old advisors came to her. You could have kept your throne, he said. Why throw it away for them? She looked at him sadly. Because one human showed me what real strength looks like, and now I can no longer rule through fear. She turned away and boarded her shuttle. As it lifted into the sky, she looked down at the world that had once bowed to her. For the first time, she felt free. Years passed. Earth became stronger than anyone imagined. Cities reached into the clouds, powered by hybrid human Dominion energy cores. Starships patrolled the solar system, their silver hulls marked with the symbol of unity. The blue planet was no longer seen as weak. It was now called the Fortress World. Ryan rarely appeared in public anymore. He had grown older, his hair touched with gray, but his eyes were the same, calm and sharp. People still spoke his name with pride and gratitude. Statues of him stood in cities, but he never attended their unveilings. One day, as he stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, a soldier approached. Commander, we've received a transmission. It's from the outer colonies of the Dominion. They're rising against their rulers. Ryan watched the stars quietly. Then the galaxy is finally changing. Should we help them? The soldier asked. Ryan turned and said, We will help anyone who seeks freedom, but we will never conquer. Remember that. Far away, on a quiet moon surrounded by silver mist, Queen Vereen lived in solitude. She walked along the ridges every morning, watching the sunrise of a distant red star. One day, a messenger ship arrived. A young Dominion officer stepped out carrying a small device. Majesty, he said, you should see this. The device projected a holographic transmission, footage from the Dominion capital. The council was collapsing. Protests filled the streets. Citizens chanted words she never expected to hear. Freedom for all worlds. End the wars. No more fear. The officer looked at her with awe. They are saying your name with respect again. They remember what you said. Vereen smiled faintly. It is not my name they should remember. She looked up at the sky, her voice quiet. They should remember his. And they did. Across the stars, stories of the human named Ryan spread like light through the darkness. On distant worlds, people whispered his name when they faced oppression. Alien soldiers told tales of how one man turned an entire empire back. Even in the Dominion academies, young recruits were taught about the Battle of Earth as both a warning and a lesson. It became known as the day the unstoppable were stopped, not by power, but by will. In every version of the story, the same line remained. The Queen of the Serenth Dominion trembled at his name. Years later, an envoy from a new alliance of free worlds visited Earth. They came to thank humanity for showing the galaxy that strength could come from unity. Ryan met them in the council hall, his uniform now plain and unmarked. "You changed everything," one alien leader said. "Your victory gave us courage." Ryan smiled slightly. Courage was always there. You only needed to see it. As the meeting ended, he stepped outside onto the balcony. The night sky stretched above him, filled with stars and the faint trails of distant ships. Somewhere out there, beyond those stars, he knew Queen Vereen still lived.